Shalom. Let's start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Harak HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles and Elsgar Millstone salutations to those for lit. This pushing this truth across four corners of the earth and all faith, truth, and sincerity. On this, I'm gonna want to buy back getting us sitting. I was going to about these companies, just charging you for everything, just charge you for this or that, you gotta. It's ridiculous, man. What they charging you for? That things that really they should not be charging you for anyway. It should just be free. But we in those times, these, like I say, man, these wicked Edomite devils, these wicked elite, man, they don't want, people, especially here in America, Bowling Great, but, in general, they don't want you to own shit, they want you to just, consume and continue just consume and don't own anything, don't have, not really have nothing, right? Struggle, just being a constant, just going in circles, right? You're not getting anywhere. You're working a 9 to 5, but it's not nothing shown from it. You're just paying bills and paying, subscriptions and this and that and this and that. Then you ain't got nothing. Once your paycheck come in, your money come in, you back down to nothing. Because you got to pay for it. Got everything. It's ridiculous, man. And hey, man, that's why these so-called white people, that's why these Edomite doubles, so-called white people, red Edomite doubles, they gotta get out the way, man. Loyal Shah got, he gotta return and remove these wicked Edomite doubles out the way, man, because they just oppressing, people, man, and I say, man, like, it's gonna come a time, man, hey, folks gonna just, we in those times now. Excuse me, let me say this. We in those times now, but it's gonna get worse, right? People gonna be just, losing it, man. More and more, cause it's just how, how things is, man. How these wicked Edomite devils got, the way of living for people. It's oppressing, man. It's stressing a lot of people out, and that's why these Edomite devils gotta, they gotta get out that policy. You gotta get removed, man. Only one that can do that is Yahushua. But I'm going to this, car companies make you pay for subscriptions. So this is the AI overview. Car companies are increasingly charging monthly or yearly subscriptions to boost revenue and cover ongoing tech maintenance costs. The typical charge for digital cloud-based or software-driven perks such as hands-free highway driving like GM's Super Cruise or Ford's Blue Cruise, and remote app control. A push toward in-car subscription takes two primary forms. Let me see. Hardware already in the car. Automakers build physical components into a vehicle, but lock access to them behind a paywall, while BMW previously faced it major customer pushback from attempting to charge monthly fees for physical heated seats. Brands like Toyota and Lexus still require a subscription, $15 a month for their connected service to use built-in remote start features from the smartphone app. See, this what I'm saying, like they're making you pay for subscriptions in a car. That you should already just have that freely, man. This is crazy. But like, hey, these greedy Edomite doubles, these wicked, these doubles, man, that run this world, man. These wicked so-called white people Edomite doubles, these elites, these greedy companies, Hey, man, oh man, I say, man, it's ridiculous. They don't want you to have nothing. They don't want you to own nothing. They want you to just keep on consuming and buying this and buying that, and and you're not owning it. It's not even yours. They like say you get these things, it can be taken away from you, right? It could be stripped away from you because you don't own it. So like I say, these what I'm saying, these wicked Edomite doubles, these greedy people, these companies, like I said, they just oppressing the people, man. You just don't want you to have nothing, man. They don't want you to have no money in your pocket. Man, shit, man, like, it's ridiculous how you buy every subscription to this, to that, to even have to enjoy the features in your car or whatever. It's crazy, man. But there's some more in this, but I just want to read that part of it. So I'm gonna go from there to it's Klaus Schwab. Excuse me, Klaus Schwab never actually said you will own nothing and be happy. In a speech, the phrase originated from a 2016 essay published on the World Economic Forum website by Danish politician Ada Auken, something like that. Auken. Excuse me if I'm saying it wrong. But it says the original essay, excuse me, y'all. Excuse me. Akum, Akin Roke. Hey y'all, this excuse me, I'm saying it. I know I'm saying it wrong, but I think it's Akin, something like that. Wrote a speculative fiction piece titled "Welcome to 2030." Like I said, they got that 2030 agenda, right? Later renamed it "Here's How Life Could Change in My City by the year 2030," which describes an idealized future where people no longer owned private assets. Instead, they rented or accessed goods as service, including cars, homes, and appliances, leading to perceived efficiencies. So right there, right? You would own nothing and be happy, man. So it's like, that's what it is. Let me see. You were no longer. I did a future where people would no longer own private assets. Instead, they're rented or access goods as services, including cars, homes, and applies and lead to perceived efficiency. So, yeah, man. Man, they said the 2030 agenda, man. Like I say, these wicked Edomite doubles, like I say, they want these elites or Esau Edom. They want to have full control of what you have, including you. That's why I say, that the mark of the sea hill, which is the mark of the beast, is going to be made mandatory, right? Eventually, right? Where they want, like I say, they want to track you. They want to know your every move and what you're doing. Like I said, they want to be like the Most High. These wicked Edomite doubles, but the Lord Yahweh Shai is not going to let the Edomite doubles fulfill their, wicked NWO agenda plans. They want to fully. They wicked they wicked NWO agenda plans is not gonna be fully fulfilled like they want to, because Loyal Shah gonna return and interrupt that. Loyal Shah be like, you ain't finna go that far, But let me see. Public reaction. The phrase became a massive source of controversy, while the WEF, World Economic Forum, presented it as a future access economy. Presented as a future access economy, emphasizing sustainability, and convenience. Critics widely interrupt it as a dystopian corporate agenda pushing for wealth extraction, loss of privacy, and absolute leak control. Like I was just saying, these elites, or so-called white people, Eastside white doubles, they want to have full control of everything. You own, that you have, including you. Like I said, like I say, they want to be like the Most High. Let me go to the word dystopian. Right there.
Dystopian.
So, dystopian refers to an imaginary, oppressive society, characterized it by widespread human suffering, poverty, strict government control, or environmental ruin. So like I said, that's what these Edomite devils want, man. They want to control you. Loss of freedom. Key characteristics of dystopian society: loss of freedom. Citizens are heavily surveilled and restricted from making independent choices. Like I said, that's why I say they want to, put that RFID chip, the micro C chip, and into the people. They're gonna make it mandatory eventually, right? It said dehumanization. Dehumanization. Hold up. Yeah. Strict institutions treat individuals as mere resources or cogs in a machine, or cogs in a machine. How you say it? See. It's environmental / social decay. The setting is often ruined, isolating people from nature or dividing them into strict castes. So, like I say, man, they just like I say, man, these wicked Edomite devils, these elites, man. They want to have you oppressed and controlled, and what I'm saying, and want to track you and this and that. They try to like I say, they trying to stop the speak for you speaking truth. They want you to speak what they want you to say. They trying to ban the word of the Lord. The Bible, the teaching of the Bible. But hey, that's prophecy that gotta come about. But I said these wicked Edomite devils, man. And, they like say they're vain. NWO agenda plans that they want to try to establish. It's not gonna be fully established like they want to. Like it's not gonna be fully fulfilled like they want to. Cause like I say, Loyal Shah will return and interrupt these wicked elites NWO agenda plan, man. Cause if they continue and do this, the whole earth will be everything in this earth will be done. You know what I'm saying? Die off, right? If they stay in power, man, they'll destroy the whole earth. But Lord Yahushua, Yahweh not gonna let them do that. But I'm gonna get some scriptures to back this up. It's Isaiah 10:1. Woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees, that write grievousness which they have prescribed. So, so woe means destruction. So destruction onto these wicked Edomite devils. So-called white people, red Edomite devils, man. That decree these unrighteous decrees, man. That they push these unrighteous laws, or what it may be, just oppressing, right? They're suppressing people, especially suppressing the so-called Negro, Latino, Native Israelites, right? Mainly, right? So destruction to these wicked Edomite devils, man. Because destruction is coming. Death and destruction is coming to these so-called white people, Edomite devils, these elites, man. And they're gonna go into slavery. These elites, they get away. They're gonna go into slavery. They're not gonna get away from all, what they have done and continue to do today. So I'll go from there to go to Proverbs. I ain't gonna make this too long. Proverbs 29. Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn, So when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. So who the righteous? The righteous, the chosen people, Lord, the so-called Negro, Latino, Native Israelites, starting with King David, the house of David. Yahweh Shai, King David, the house of David. And then I say, the chosen people, Lord, so-called Negro, Latino, Native Israelites, and starting with, with the elect in these times. Because not all Israel gonna, Lord Yahushua, Yahushua not dealing with all Israel right now. He only deal with the elect. But like I said, when the Israelites are in power, so-called Negro, Latino natives, when the Israelites are, in power, then the people rejoice, because like I say, the Israelites are the righteous ones, the chosen people of the Lord, the so-called Negro, Latino natives, which are the Israelites, those imposters over there in the land of Israel are not the Israelites, But when the wicked bearers rule, the people mourn. So when the wicked bearers rule, the people mourn. I say the wicked is the so-called white people, red Edomite devils, man. That's in power. They are the wicked, man. So when the wicked are in rule, the people mourn. And people are mourning right now. They're oppressed, just stressed out, jobs, not getting paid enough at these jobs, not getting hired right now, just oppressed it, right? Gotta deal with this, these Edomite devils pushing these, these unrighteous decrees. Like I say, these they promote, the Mo agenda on TV and so forth, man. Messing up the food, the air, and the water. Just like I say, everything here in America, Babylon, the greatest world, for the most part, is defiled, right? It's not good, That's why Lord Yahushua got returned, and he got to bring that fire upon this place, America, Babylon Great. He got to cleanse this. He got to destroy this place, America, Babylon Great, with that fire by way of the thermonuclear missiles. Everything got to be burnt up here, man. What I'm saying? Gotta get these Edomite devils out the way, man. They continue to be in power. Like I say, man, this whole earth could be, completely just destroyed, man. But like I said, Lord Yahushua is not gonna let these Edomite devils do that, man. you know, because they only have a time limit set for them to rule, and we in those times right now. Their time of rulership is at its end, you know. So like I say, it's not much longer. And like I said, these Edomite devils ain't got too much longer to be in rulership right now. The days are speeding up. Their time is short, right? Time is short for them. Time is it's not on the so-called white man Esau to my side. But the time speeding up is beneficial. It's beneficial for the elect. Because like I say, hey, the days going by so forth and going fast, the better, right? The more time to speed up, hey, the more the time that the time it shrinks, it shortens more for the so-called white people, Esau, the devils, the elites, or their time of rulership to come to end, and the Lord Yahushua returns in the chairs so-called your foe. Bring these Edomite devils out of the power seat, man. Out of rulership. So with that, I don't want to make it too long. Hope this was edifying. So again, I like about praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Harakakadash, to the apostle elders, to the sisters and brothers, to the Fiakwaf. Sisters that do listen, keep the faith, and Yahushua keep fighting. That's it. Shalom.